They say every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, is watching you. If you're reported for any corrupt practice, you'll be investigated, prosecuted, and punished. Corruption is harmful to our nation. Join the campaign against it by reporting any corrupt practice to ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
Let we join hands with ICPC, make them better.
Let's make Nigeria great again.
ICPC, they want you.
Come on, hand for corruption.
Break the chain of corruption now. Don't give, don't take. This message is brought to you by ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
In every country where corruption flourishes, its effects are usually devastating. A few individuals unjustly enrich themselves at the expense of the vast majority, thereby giving rise to poverty. Disregard for the rule of law, which brings about political instability, social inequality, reduction in the level of productivity and quality of goods and services, low foreign direct investment, and bad international image, among others. To rescue the country from the grip of corruption, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, was established and vested with the responsibility for investigation and prosecution of corrupt practices. Today on the program, we bring you highlights of some cases the Commission has successfully prosecuted in recent times. Stay tuned for this and more. Welcome to Corruption Must Go. I am Joy Aja.
Corruption not in my country.
Give him his shoes somewhere here, his phone and everything.
Bye-bye.
Hey,
Why do you-
Oga, where do you think you are going?
Oh, you never shake body.
Eh?
You never shake body.
Shake body,
wait.
see?
You
Eh?
never shake body.
I no get combo for my body.
You go take for here. Sit down there.
What's this man still doing here?
They say I do shake body. I shake body, I shake body. They say I do this. And I say I no get combo.
You are asking for money.
Sorry, ma'am.
Asking for money to bail a suspect is an act of corruption. Both of you will be punished. Corruption is not allowed within the force. Remember,
Police is your friend. Giving and taking bribe is wrong.
corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
This is Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. Hawa Garba brings us details of some select convictions secured by ICPC recently.
Welcome to this segment. I am Hawa Garba. After 2 years of judicial battle, ICPC secured 7 years jail term for Mr. Donald Oria Anangeda, an officer of the Universal Basic Education Commission, UBEC, Abuja, for conspiracy, and 12 years for Mr. Ihum Anum Achusa, a former chairman of Benue State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, for conspiracy and abuse of office, respectively. The convicts had earlier been arraigned on a 4-count charge of contravening sections 12, 18D, 19, and 26 1C of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. They pleaded not guilty to all the charges brought against them, and that set the tune for a long legal tussle. The 2 officers were also charged for conspiring among themselves to knowingly hold indirectly a private interest in the contract awarded to Brown Sugar Global Resources Limited for the training of some Benue teachers on ICT to the tune of 97.5 million naira. Mr. Achusa was further accused of accepting the sum of 14.9 million naira as gratification from Mr. Oria on account of the contract that had been awarded to Brown Sugar Global Resources Limited. In his judgment, Honorable Justice Anum, having considered the totality of evidence adduced in the course of the trial by the prosecution, and recognizing that it had discharged the burden of proof placed upon it by law beyond reasonable doubt, convicted the two officers on count 1 to 7 years imprisonment each without option of fine. He further found Mr. Achusa guilty on count 3 and sentenced him to 5 years jail term without an option of fine to run concurrently with the earlier sentence. A Niger State High Court sitting in Minna has sentenced one Mr. Lawal Idris Abdullahi of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, to 6 years imprisonment for fraudulently receiving monthly emoluments from 2 federal government agencies. Mr. Abdullahi had earlier been docked before the acting Chief Judge of Niger State, Justice Maria Sanda Zukogi, by ICPC on a 6-count charge bordering on making false statements to public officers, thereby contravening Section 25, subsection 1A of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 and Section 122 of the Nigerian Penal Code. The convict, who opted for a plea bargain, pleaded guilty to all the charges leveled against him. Delivering the judgment, Justice Zukogi, upon conclusion of the plea bargain, lamented that it was very disheartening to find some public servants being so unpatriotic as to deprive other citizens from job placements in the face of high unemployment by keeping multiple jobs. She sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment on each of the counts, which cumulated to 6 years that will run consecutively with the option of the payment of a fine of 240,000 naira. Abdullahi was in addition ordered to execute a bond in the sum of 100,000 naira to be of good behavior for 1 year.
Corruption not in my country.
What you want buy?
Potato. Small baskets. I want plantain. But why your plantain can't hard like this?
Madam, now the outside hard. Inside there, it is very soft.
Madam, wallahi make her no buy am. Make I show you something. What? What be this one? Madam, this one now the chemical where they put on for the plantain make her ripe up.
So you dey put chemical for plantain where people go chop?
No water, no be chemical.
Water. You know say Pela I don't talk and say water and not be enemy. Drink am.
Where you collect that water, drink am.
I just stop finish. See my belly. After it don't big. I just stop drink water finish.
Wait, you drink am now. At the sell am plantain I go come put am for chemical because I want to make a ripe go. That's why I talk now corruption. Corruption. Not be for this kaswa, come not be for this country. Now me talk.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
In another development, Honorable Justice Kudirat Jose of a Lagos High Court sitting in Ikeja has sentenced one Sylvester Sunday Agahunu to 1 year imprisonment and 6 months community service for visa-related fraud. Mr. Agahunu was first arraigned on a 5-count charge by ICPC on offences that bordered on forgery and submission of forged documents to the India High Commission with the intent to mislead it into issuing him a visa. The offence contravenes Section 13, 17(1)(c) and 26(1)(a) of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 and is punishable under Section 13 of the same Act. Some of the evidence made available before the court included a United Bank of Africa statement of account in favor of Dynamic Investment Nigeria Limited, certificate of incorporation of the said company that acknowledged Agahunu as its employee, and a letter of invitation by One Acme Machinery India, PVT Limited. After presenting their argument, the prosecuting counsel prayed the court to make the accused face the wrath of the law to serve as a deterrent to others. Honorable Justice Jose, in his ruling, convicted the accused and sentenced him to 1 year imprisonment and 6 months community service. The sentences are to run concurrently.
On the 19th of September, before the Benue High Court in Makurdi, the Commission secured conviction in respect of a case concerning the staff of UBEC, that's Universal Basic Education, and the former chairman of SUPEB. We know what SUPEB means. SUPEB Benue State Universal Basic Education Board, Benue State. Basically, the offense was that they used the company, Brown Sugar, a company which they had interest in, to secure a contract from Benue State Universal Basic Education for a contract for the sum of 97 million. And under the ICPC Act, Section 12 of the ICPC Act, it's an offense for you as a public servant to have an interest in a contract, or I wouldn't call it the company where you have interest. So that Section 12 makes it an offense. And Section 19 also makes an offense for you to use your office to confer unfair or corrupt advantage on yourself. And these two public officers, by virtue of their position, awarded the contract to a company called Brown Sugar. We are the first defendant in that case. On which they had interest in that company and caused the second defendant, to who was the chairman of Benue State Education Board, to award a contract, and thereafter, sum of about 14 million was not paid to the second defendant as the chairman, because he had, for awarding that contract to them, that's using his office to confer unfair advantage on himself, and they were also charged for conspiracy. That's what the judge found them guilty of, and they were sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. Then the second defendant was sentenced to, we call it, 7 years imprisonment for using his office to confer unfair advantage on himself. That's basically the charge in the Benue State case. Then the other case before the High Court of Makurdi, Niger State, the officer had double employment and was even double salaries from NIMC and Federal Inspectorate, that's a department under the Ministry of Education. But when he was faced with the charge and every all the documents against him, he pleaded guilty to the charge. The case came up before Honorable Justice Zukoji, the then acting Chief Judge of Niger State. He pleaded guilty and was duly sentenced. Then on the third case, had to do with somebody who presented false documents to obtain visa. And then forged bank documents and a host of other forged documents to obtain visa. And when this was discovered, the person was duly prosecuted, charged under Section 13 of the Act. And he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 months imprisonment. In respect of the first case, as in the past, it was usual for people to have what we call briefcase companies, where you have 3 companies or the hills of companies in your briefcase. And when it comes to awarding of contracts, somebody, director of procurement or director of finance in one ministry, will just award the contract to a company he has interest. Whether it's a signature to the account or a director of that company, in the past nobody cared about that. But now the ICPC Act has made it an offense. That even if you award the contract, you are the procuring entity or you are the head of the entity, and maybe your brother, your sister, your son has a company, and you award the contract to that person, it's an offense under the ICPC Act. It's only not an offense when it's a joint stock company of more than 20 persons. Like maybe, for instance, now I'm a shareholder in Julius Berger. I'm a shareholder in Julius Berger, and I'm the Pamsec Ministry of Works. And Julius Berger bids for Economic Ministry of Works and wins it. because the Las Vegas is a public quoted company with over 100 shareholders, I may not be found liable unless it is found out that I influenced that contract for Julius Berger because I'm a shareholder. But in the other part, if it is probably if it's just a 2-man or 3-man company and you now order that contract with that company, it's an offense, strict liability offense on that. So long as you can prove that you have an interest in that company, then like the man who awarded the contract and received some payment back, he was found guilty of and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment for using his office to confer unfair advantage on himself. You know, that's a unique section under the ICPC Act. If as a civil servant, you do some things and you not benefit from them, that section will hold you. That means probably you didn't pass due process in employing your cousin, or you didn't pass due process in doing 1 or 2 things and you not benefited from it. You're guilty under section 19 of the Act. Then with respect of the second conviction gotten in Mina, you know, even the IPPI has come to take care of things like that, but despite that, we still have some people who have managed to beat the system. But the ICPC Act says that, but in this case, the man was charged for making false statement, not disclosing his previous employment before not getting an employment somewhere else. That made an offense. For which he was found guilty, though he pleaded guilty and was duly sentenced. And on the issue of the visa scam, the trend is that most people you arrest now for trying to present false papers always claim to be the victims. That maybe they met an agent who promised to procure visa for them, and the person gave them false documents which they present. They are participants in that crime. You know the procedure for getting the visa. Despite that, you went to meet an agent, and the person brings your passport, well, you wouldn't know if the visa is fake or not. But it brings a bank statement, knowing that bank statement is not yours. You presented it. You are not claiming to be a victim. How can you be a victim there? Because actively, you know most of the documents the man gave you to go and present for the visa interview are not genuine documents. And yet you presented them and you are not coming back to claim that you are a victim. No, you are not a victim. You are a participant in the crime. So I want to urge all of us, there are laid down procedures. Go to the website of the embassy, or they give you the laid down procedure of obtaining these visas or whatever. Follow that procedure. And if you get it, good and fine. If you don't get it, don't go into pass-through agents. And when they end up giving you false documents, you're not claimed to be the victim. So my advice is whenever you want to get your visa, always go through the normal procedure.
That's all from this segment. Back to Joy. Aja.
To make elected officials accountable, ICPC says no to vote buying and violence during election. Vote wisely.
All these convictions not only serve to highlight the consequences that await people who engage in acts of corruption in whatever form, but also as a reminder that there is always a day of reckoning. A Nigeria free from all forms of corruption is still possible. Eradicating corruption should not only be the duty of ICPC and other anti-corruption agencies, but it should be the duty of all, including you. ICPC remains resolute in its effort to bring perpetrators of corrupt acts to book and to rid Nigeria of the menace. This is our package for this week. You can also watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. See you again next week. Bye for now.